Right now we are learning, we're returning to what we began yesterday, and that is this beautiful speech given by Lubavitcher Rebbe in 1992 about Tu B'Shvat, the 15th day of Shvat, and which is the Rosh Hashanah, it's the New Year's Day for trees. Let's make it a little bit bigger here. Can we make it bigger? There must be some way to do this. Okay, yesterday I did it like this. Here we go. 1 minute. 1 minute. We got to go this here like this. Oh, one more. There we go. All right. So the Rebbe said, first of all, what does it mean, the New Year's Day for fruits? So first of all, practically speaking, it's talking about when they count as far as taking the tithes for fruits from 1 year to the next year. What divides 1 year from the next? But of course, this must have a very important meaning for us and how to serve and appreciate and love and fear God and do what God wants and improve the world, improve ourselves. So first of all, let's start off from the obvious fact that trees come from the ground, right? Trees come from the ground. And especially these are talking about the trees of the land of Israel, trees of the land of Israel, and they come from the ground. And it's really basically talking about 7 types of trees. Those are the trees that the land of Israel is praised by. Wheat and barley, which are not really trees, but those are the fruits that God has praised. And we'll talk about that in a moment. Wheat and barley. And then we have figs and dates and pomegranates and grapes and olives. Right? Those are okay, but before we discuss what is wheat and barley and figs and grapes and olives, where is that in our soul? What message is this coming to teach us in being better human beings, better Jews? First of all, that's the basic thing the Rebbe already dealt with, is that these fruits, this produce, it comes from the ground. And what is the idea of ground? Ground is very important. I mean, we're standing on the ground. Everything grows up from the ground. But ground also, the word eretz has a lot of different connotations to it. The word eretz means ground, but the word eretz also means to want something, a willpower, ratzon. It says that's why the land of Israel is called. It's called the land of Israel. Why isn't it just called Israel? Right? We don't call it the land of America, the land of England, the land of Russia. Israel is called the land of Russia, Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel, Eretz Yisrael. Why the land? Because it says it wants to do the will of God. Rutz talasot. Also the land, the word Eretz also means ratsui. It is desirous. It's how do you say ratsui? Means it's proper, the way things should be. Ratsui, pleasing, pleasing. Also, the word rutz means to run. To run. It makes us want to run to do what God wants. The whole thing of the land, though, implies that we have to work on it. We have to work on the land. And the Rebbe says, what does working on the land entail? It entails basically the 39 different types of works which are forbidden to do on Shabbat, and which were used to build the tabernacle. And from the juxtaposition of the building of the tabernacle, the commandment to build the tabernacle, and the commandment to keep the Shabbat in the Torah, they learned that on Shabbat, they did not build the tabernacle. So all the things that were used to make the tabernacle, to change the world, to build. Oh, here, see, this is making it bigger. Here, I have this thing over here. Yeah. Okay, I don't need to do all the things which are used to improve, to change, to work on the world. That's implied by the word eretz, earth, because the earth demands work. It demands plowing. It demands planting. It demands harvesting. It demands change. All these things of change. That's what eretz demands. It's telling us that truth. The land gives us a lot of things, but it demands from us that we have to work. And it says, how many different categories of work are there? There's 40 minus 1, 39 different types. Why does the Gemara say 40 minus 1? That we should know that we're missing something. We're missing something. And that's why we have to work, because we're missing. No matter how great and high and holy and whatever we are, right, and happy we are, we should know that there's levels of highness and holiness and happiness which we have to work for. Okay, there we go. Now, now we can also continue. Prati and Yanim. How do I get rid of this thing over here? Do I get rid of it? Do I have to live with this? 1 minute, 1 minute. Can I move this up? No, okay. Let's just live with this. Yesh lahosif. Let us add on an explanation of the Prati. See, it went away on its own. See? Maybe talking about it makes it go away, huh? Could that be? There's someone sort of a spot over here. I get it. Okay, sort of. Here we go. So now we can add on and explain the the details of these 7 different types in the service of man, right? The wheat and the barley and everything. This is also explained in Likkutei Torah for the Arizal. Arizal also had a book which he called Likkutei Torah. Chita, Seora, Geffen, Ta'ena, Rimon, and then afterwards it says again, Eretz, Zait, Shemen, Davash. In the sentence it says 2 times the word Eretz, and after the first time it says Eretz, there's 5 types of food, and after the second time it says Eretz, there's 2 types of food. So it says a land that has wheat, barley, grapes, figs, and dates. That's the first 5. And then it says Eretz again. Zayt Shemen Udavash is talking about, what did I say? No, did I say? I'm sorry. I think I made a mistake. I don't remember what I just finished saying. Wheat, barley, grapes, figs, and pomegranates. I didn't say pomegranates. Pomegranates. Rimon is pomegranates. And after the second time saying Eretz, then the Torah says there's 2 more types in addition to these first 5. Zayit, Shemen, that's talking about olives. Udvash, that's dates. That's dates. Dvash is dates. Okay. Chita, let's start from the beginning. Chita, what is chita? Chita is wheat. Wheat is human food. Shenas Edom, and human food, it becomes your flesh and blood. When you eat wheat, you eat bread, so it becomes your flesh and blood. Romans, this hints at avoda sheshayches lenefesh elokis. This is talking about the service of God, which is relevant to the godly soul. Shebakol echad ve'echad misrael, which is found in every single Jew. Right? The Jewish people have this soul, which is called a godly soul, which makes them feel responsible to God and to do the Torah. A Jew feels a responsibility to the Creator and to do his Torah. Every Jew feels this deep, deep down. That's called the godly soul. The godly soul that he's certain that God exists, and he's certain that the Torah is right, and he's certain that he's here in order to serve the Creator through the Torah. That's called the godly soul. That's represented by the first of the 7 fruits, whatever is produce of Israel, fruits of Israel, that which is called wheat. Next, Sa'ara, barley. Barley, generally speaking, is animal food. Super Bagamor, like it says in the Talmud, Omar Lahem Sa'arim Nasu Yafid. When it says that the Sa'arim are, when someone says that the barley is nice, Omar Lo, they said to him, say Ubasar L'Susim U'Lechamurim. Go and don't tell me that the barley is nice. Go and tell that to your horses and your donkeys. They have food. This hints at the avoda. Okay, so animal food is barley. Human food is, in other words, food for the godly soul. That's referring to wheat. In other words, the Torah. The Torah, that's talking about food for your godly soul, increases the godly soul. What is what does barley? What is it a metaphor for? This is talking about your animal soul. This is talking about service that every Jew has to serve, relevant to his animal soul. In other words, to control yourself, to do things which are conducive to, to holiness, put on tefillin, physical things that improve your natural self. Have good character traits, be honest, etc. Okay. So first of all, we're talking about wheat hints at work you have to do with your godly soul, learning Torah, prayer. This is talking about work you have to do with your animal soul, fixing up your personality, fixing up how you deal with the world, how you deal with people. This is talking about how you deal with God. Here's you're talking about a person's relationship with people. Next, we have what? We have grapes. What are grapes? What does that teach us about how to serve God? It says, Tiroshi mesameach Elokim b'adam. It says, my wine makes, the grapes are speaking, my wine makes God and people happy. This is from Malachim, what is it? Shoftim, from Judges. Tet. My wine, that's the idea of grapes. What is this talking about? This is talking about an addition, adding happiness in all of your service of God. Of the godly soul, we talked about that's the wheat. How you relate to God should be more in a happy, positive way. And also serving with people, Elokim v'Adam, people, that is the animal soul, your natural soul. That's called Yain Samech Levavanosh, how you deal with people, how you deal with the world, how you deal with your family, right? Normal day-to-day activities should also be in a pleasant and a happy way that you have to work on yourself for that. You have to work. That's the idea. That's the lesson we learned from grapes. Grapes is happiness. Like we say, Yain Mesameach Lavav Enosh. There's another sentence that says that wine makes happy the heart of Enosh, of people. Enosh is one of the terms of man which indicates weakness. We call the Adam and a Gever and Ish and Enosh. Those are four. Enosh is indicates a weak person. Lashon Chalisha is weak. Kamo Ekev Alev Mikol Enoshu. This refers to the animal soul. That's the sorrow. We should make that happy also. And there's that you serve God with your animal soul, and you hold yourself back from getting angry. And this should be done in a positive way. In a positive way, that you're serving the Creator. That's indicated by grapes. So grapes teach us that you have to your service of God between you and God, which is indicated by wheat, and your service between you and people, which is indicated by barley, has to be also happy in a happy, positive, pleasant way, which that's indicated by grapes. Next fruit, ta'ena, figs. Like it says, v'yitzpru alei ta'ena v'yasulem chagarot. It says by the first man that after he ate from the tree, he and his wife, they took leaves from the fig tree. From that, some people want to say that the tree that they ate from was figs. Umamshech, and it continues, vayas kotnot or v'yalbishem. It says also they made garments of skin and they put them on. Okay, what is this? So the Adam, after he ate from the tree, so he made two types of garments. One was of fig leaves, and the other one was garments of skin, hide. More, this indicates a lavoda on the service of birur halavushim. This indicates that you have to refine your garments. Ma'achre, in addition to, and a tosefes, benogea la'adam atzmo, that a person has to work on himself, he has to work on his garments. Sometimes a person will have a good attitude toward others, he's pleasant and everything, but he doesn't know how to express it. He doesn't know how to add the shlemos of birur ba'ofen kotnet or, until he makes garments of or is of hides. But there's one opinion that this, and when written in the Torah, it should be written with an aleph. Kotnet or should be written with aleph. Whose opinion of that? That's Rabbi Meir's opinion. It's not accepted, but that's the opinion. That in the Torah, it should say kotnet or with an aleph. That he made garments not of skin, but garments of light with an aleph, like it says. That's what it says in the Torah of Rabbi Meir. Or the light Romans hints at alufo shel olam, or the word or. This is at the alufo shel olam. What's the difference between or with an ayin and or with an aleph? Or with an ayin means skin, means hide, the hide of an animal. And or with an aleph is light. It says that aleph is also referring to God. God is called alufo shel olam. He's called the master of the world. Aluf means the master, the teacher of the world. Kafish and nimshach, how it is drawn down into or is aleph. That's the vav resh. The aleph is drawn down into a vav of or below until it comes to the letter of resh. Resh is considered to be a letter that indicates on bad things, not like Dalet. The Dalet has a little. If we would have continued Bati Lagani, there's a whole explanation of the difference between a Resh and a Dalet. But the letter Dalet has a little overhang over on this side, and that indicates connection to God. He explains why, and the Resh doesn't have that. So it says Aleph is the oneness of God, Vav to draw it down, and Resh even into the lowest parts of the world. Dugma Sobavoda, this means or the light of every single Jew is great so much until it comes down even into the garments. That's the kotnos, the garments, and they become garments of light. So that's the idea of a fig. Fig is talking about garments fixing up your speech, thought, and action, so that even those are expressing godliness. They express the Creator. Good. So let's go again. What do we have? We have wheat is talking about working on your godly soul. Barley means working on your natural soul. Grapes means happiness, being happy. Put positive happiness and joy into working on your animal soul, natural soul, etc. Here we're talking about even lower. Figs are talking about working even on your garments, speech, thought, action. Rimon, what's a rimon? Rimon is a pomegranate. It says that we should be filled with commandments like a rimon. We should be filled with commandments like a pomegranate, right? Malayim mitzvahs karimon. Where does this come from? Here it says it's in the garment. It's in the Talmud, Chagiga. It says that every Jew, even Jews that are sinners, are filled with commandments like a pomegranate is filled with seeds. Every Jew. This indicates alavoda, the birur, and all of this is talking about not just working on yourself. This is talking about working on the world. This is outside of your godly soul, your animal soul, outside of your garments, thought, speech, and action. This is talking about dealing with physical things in the world, especially money. These are things that are below even the garments of a person. The physical things in the world that you use to do the commandments. It says every Jew is filled with commandments like a rim. What are the commandments? The commandments are almost all, dealing with things outside of us. Giving charity, putting on tefillin, putting a mezuzah on your door, right? These things are all dealing with outside of us. Outside. So this is even a level of refining even more distant than your godly soul. The godly soul, than the animal soul, than your garments, etc. This is talking about even the world, working in the world with things that you can elevate for the mitzvahs. That's what it means, filled with mitzvot, like a pomegranate. Shekol garin, that a pomegranate is filled with seeds. And unlike all the other fruits, the seeds are not only edible, but the seeds, that's the main edible part, is the seeds. You don't have any, offhand, I can't think of any other fruit that's like that. That the seeds themselves are the food. That's the good part. Shekol garin, that every seed muvdal is separated, a mufresh, mishar garanim, from the other seeds. Lo al yedei davar zar, not by anything separate, by means of the rimon itself, the pomegranate itself. Ubasura rimon, by the flesh of the pomegranate. The dugmato, for instance, in the commandments, that's the commandments. Commandments is, it says, ein osim mitzvahs chavilos chavilos. You shouldn't do mitzvahs like by the way. Hainu shekol mitzvah hu b'finei atzmo. Every commandment should be on its own. Muvdalet mishar mitzvahs, separate from all the others. A lot of people, for instance, it's very common that a person, he puts on, let's say, tefillin every morning, so he just gets used to doing it. So he puts on tefillin every morning just before he leaves the house because it's just, it's just like a connector from leaving his house to going out to work. He just puts on tefillin. He's not thinking about what he's doing. Or there's a commandment to give charity. So every person he comes by, he gives charity, but he's not thinking about it. He could be talking on his phone, gives charity. He's not thinking about what he's doing. And all the commandments is just doing it like, just sort of by the way. It shouldn't be that way. It should be that every commandment is separate on its own and separate from all the other commandments. It's not just that he's doing a commandment and all of them are basically the same. Listen, there's one good thing about that is that you're doing what God wants. Right? You're doing all the commandments are basically the same. That's the fact is. All the commandments are the same. The commandments are doing what God wants. Just happens to be that God wants me to do this thing and that thing and put on tefillin and there's all these details. But all of the commandments, the basic feeling you should have for doing the commandments, you're doing what God wants. That's the basic feeling that you should have. But that's not sufficient. You can't be satisfied with that alone. You have to understand that every commandment is unique and special. And it's true that it's the will of God, but God wants each one to be separate and special and unique. And you should treat every commandment accordingly. These are commandments from God. Shakol mitzvah, that every commandment is a thing on itself, separate from all the others. Vavdalato, and the separation of them, lo yedei davar zar, it's not by anything else, it's be the commandment of the Torah. Like it says, Abdallah Garini, like one seed of the pomegranate is separate from others by means of the flesh of the pomegranate itself. You can eat the separation between them. You can take the whole inside and eat them all together, right? Eat all together, or you can eat each one with the meat of the pomegranate that surrounds it. It's all edible. Similar also that's the commandments, and similar also in everything you do in the world, and everything you use in the world to do the commandments with. Shagam of the latam mitzvahs, also the fact that they are separate one from the other is because the Torah commanded us to do this. So, for instance, you make money in your business. So it doesn't mean you don't have to pay attention to your customers. You don't have to be nice to them. Each customer is separate. Each customer is special, but you have to deal with them as a human being. Each thing is separate. But the one thing that unifies them all is that that's what God wants. Right? That's what God wants. So nothing should be just a means to something else. Everything is special in itself. Okay. And that's we've talked about now up to now. Geffen is grapes, happiness. Te'ena is talking about our garments, thought, speech, and action. And Rimon is talking about the physical world and the service of this comes from the easier, what's closest to us, to the more difficult, to the things that seemingly are further away from godliness. Chita, first of all, we're talking about refining our godly soul, dealing with our godly soul, learning Torah, doing commandments. Afterwards, Sora is barley. And since the service of the godly soul is easier than the service with your animal soul. Animal soul makes all sorts of troubles. It tricks you. Sitting in a yeshiva and learning Torah, or sitting in a synagogue and praying, being separate from everybody, that's working with your godly soul. That's a little bit easier. Working with your animal soul, you have all these bad character traits and things like that. That's a little more difficult. Then afterwards, Geffen, you have to add joy in everything you do. That's even more difficult. Afterwards, you have to serve with, fix up your thought, speech, and action. That's even more difficult. That's represented by the fig. After that, you have to fix up things in the world. That's even more difficult. Things in the world don't seem to be godliness at all. Better just to go back to the synagogue and back to the place of learning, and maybe you don't even get married and just be holy. That's not what God wants, right? You're right. It's going to be easier and you can be close. That's the same thing like the Jews. They wanted to stay in the desert. They didn't want to come to the land of Israel because they wanted an easy life. Okay, that's all the the 5 different types of food which come after the first time it says in this sentence, eretz. Eretz, chita, asora, gefen, te'ena, urimon. But then it says in the sentence, another time, eretz. What does it say, eretz? And the other time, afterwards, it says, another time, the word eretz. All this is up to now. We've been talking about things working, going from above to below. Like we said, fixing up this one that's missing from 40. Remember we talked about in the beginning of the class? The Harisha working on positive things. Planting, plowing, all the 39 works which are dealing with the earth, just working on, so to speak, neutral things and making them, putting holiness into them. The second eretz, this is talking about avoda v'yagia gedoliyota. This is even harder. Not just dealing with the world, things that are neutral and putting godliness into them. This is talking about the second time it says in the sentence eretz. It's talking about ilay gedoliyota. This is talking about an even higher elevation. Al derech achiluk, like the difference between working at plowing in order to make the ground grow, or plowing in order to remove big stones. I'm sorry. It's plowing and digging down deep in order to find diamonds. So you plow your ground in order to grow. You just have to plow, the first whatever is foot or something. But you're digging down to find precious stones. So you have to dig even deeper. So we can say that the second time it says in the sentence eretz, this is talking about service of God in the time of exile. That's the time, because of the great descent, we're in exile. Now we have to make a special effort, even more. The first, that we talked in the sentence that talks about the fruits that the land of Israel is praised by. Right, again, to remember, this speech that Rebbe gave is talking about Tu B'Shvat, which praises the fruits of the land of Israel. So we're saying the sentence where we find which are the fruits that Israel is praised by is a sentence that it talks about 7 types of food, 7 types of fruits. And the word eretz is mentioned twice. It's mentioned at the beginning of the sentence, and then it's mentioned after the first 5 fruits. Says the Rebbe, we can take this into service of God. The first 5 fruits that's talking about, wheat, barley, grapes, the figs, and pomegranates, that's talking about working in holy things, increasing holiness, our godly soul, our animal soul, our the garments, thought, speech, and action, to be happy in those things, and even to work in the world. That's positive, good, nice things to add holiness. That's the first 5. But then it says the word eretz again, and it adds 2 more. It says those 2 are talking about serving God in the time of exile. Now, this is a more difficult type of a service. And this is not like the regular plowing and planting. We're talking about holy things. This is talking about like a much more difficult work, but the rewards are greater. It's like digging down deep for diamonds. This is a different type of a service, serving God in the time of exile. And that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow. That's mainly the purpose of Chabad Hasidut, to teach Jews how to dig down deep and how this terrible, awful exile that we're in, horrendous, with all of the tortures the Jewish people have been subjected to through the generations, through 2,000 years, somehow or other, and Moshiach is going to reveal this, somehow or other, this is going to be like digging down deep, deep and revealing big diamonds. How it's going to be, we'll find out tomorrow. And now let's do the Yom Yom.